Good morning, everybody. About to get started. Hit that like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. Especially all the Steph heads that are just jumping over from her show to my show. Just hopefully we flip these over straight. You just roll straight into this one. Hitting that like, what's up, Brian Crow? What's happening? What the? All right. I will be up in just a minute. Moon River. All right. Where's my chat room at? Where's the chatty people? Not everybody, just the chatty people. Hey, what's happening, Falcor? Jonathan, what's going on? Jupiter? Almost there, William. What's happening? Hi, Maggie. Thank you guys for liking the stream preemptively. I think that shows taste and breeding on your part. As for guestages this morning, your guess is as good as mine. See what I did there? Come on. Be up in just a minute. Oh yes. Damn. All right. And then today. Oh, Cliff's gonna be on first. There we go. Okay, good. And excellent. All right. Well, he'll be here anytime now, I think, in theory. Okay. 2 minutes and I'm up. Hold on to your spongy bits. Now there we go. Twitch people, let me see some emojis. Do it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on Twitch. If you do, that would be helpful. I got, let's see, where's my screen business happening? It's in there, that's why. That's not good. I'm gonna start messing with my... There he is. There's Cliff Schechter. I see the man. Right on. Okay,
Hal, my man,
what's
there?
Happening? I am indeed, yeah. I'll be up in just a second.
That's right, I know you're coming over from Stephanie's place.
It's true.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Ask away.
Where, I've never been to the stream here. Is there a place where, like, I can leave a comment section?
Yes. Let's see. Let's see. I can send you a link of something like this. Let me see if I'll remedy it. Yes. Hold on one second. I will do what I can.
Or I don't know where. But like, you know.
Yes. Cool. On YouTube, you'll see a conglomerate. Yeah.
I'll go to your YouTube and I'll turn the sound down there.
That's a great idea.
Because, you know, like, I like to be able to react to what folks are saying.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I see it. I'm even in the picture there.
Look at that. Hey, everybody, say hi to Cliff in the chat room so he knows you care. He's very sensitive about these things.
Let me know you care. I care.
Yeah.
I see you all. Katie
Excellent.
Stevens, Joe Cliff, good to see you. How you been? Good, Katie. How about you?
Cool. Here we go.
Say
all
hi.
right, let me...
Hello.
I'm gonna start an actual show like a crazy person. Let's do this.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? I'll take this guy down. There we go. And go to me solo for one split second. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings. Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. And our dear friend Cliff Schechter from Cliff's Edge is joining us right now. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, live-ish from the state of my birth. Although only, I think you're in. Are you in the general Ohio area?
Not Kentucky. Were you actually born in Ohio?
I was born in Cincinnati. Yeah, because it was the nearest hospital without chickens. Mm-hmm.
Wow, you must have told me that somewhere along the line.
Indeed, I did. Yeah, I always share that.
Maybe I should have behaved more in college, and my memory would be working better.
I don't think you can blame it. Like college stuff. I think there's so many forgettable things right now that a lot of us are doing what was effectively a mental purge right now. You know what I mean?
Good point. Like the brain matter taken up.
Yeah, it's like the Dahmer era. Forget about it. But done as a defense mechanism against the current state of reality, as it were. Hi, chat room. Prep your questions for Cliff. I'm sure you'll have many. You and I haven't spoken in a teensy little bit, so it's hard to know where to pick up. Like, I feel like the best thing we can do is sort of a needle drop on where we are in the current unpleasantness. Following the, for those that thought the actual week following the assassination was bad in terms of just Civil War discourse and nonsense and heightened. Calls for violence and the like. Then, they do this memorial service where Trump, it reminds me of that line in Dumb and Dumber where Jim Carrey rolls up on the little scooter and Jeff Bridges goes, just when I thought you couldn't do anything you couldn't be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Redeem yourself.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, I had to.
And no, it's exactly right. And so I feel like, right when the calls for awful are getting almost ratcheting up to a fever pitch, Trump gives this embarrassing, self-involved, whiny, anti-Christian speech at this memorial service and just knifes the tires on where on this thing that they were planning on riding across the finish line, I guess, in at least the next election.
But the thing is, look, Al, the thing is that, again, and this is what I'm struggling with, because you don't want to let hate consume you.
Yes.
It's not a good thing.
Thank you, Yoda.
But I'm struggling with not hating the people that did this, because people do all sorts of bad things and stupid things in life, that are mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it the first term, and we saw an insurrection at the end of it, and we knew there were months of planning for him to overthrow the government, and we knew that that the only thing that held him back in certain cases, like shooting the protesters, was Mark Milley being there, and others that we may not agree with on everything, Mattis, and people that aren't my brand of politics, but at least were professional soldiers or professional bureaucrats in other situations that stopped him from his worst instincts. And we knew, these people that want to now pretend that, oh my God, we could have had no idea. I can curse on this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't see. It's been that long. I haven't been on because it's hard for me not to, because it gets me saying, yeah, you fucking did know. You did know. And if you didn't know, you're a fucking moron. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw who this. He is not. He is. He's got the mental and emotional capacity of a child, and not even like a well-adjusted child.
Right.
An adult child. And we knew this from then, and this isn't even a me taking ad hominems. This is just the truth.
Yeah.
He does not have the capacity to make anything in life not about him. He doesn't have the capacity in any situation in life to rise to the occasion. Everybody's like, well, can he rise to? Of course he can. George W. Bush, say what you will, could rise to the occasion. George H.W. Bush, Reagan, whatever. I can go through all sorts of Republican presidents I couldn't stand, and yet say they had that ability. But you see a person, those of us who lived in New York, who saw him for years, whatever, you knew that there was no ability for him to ever make anything about anybody else because he has no capacity to think about anyone else because he's a sociopath and a
Right.
narcissist. And
Right.
so the people that looked at all of that and said, let's put that into office, but with fewer guardrails, an even crazier Supreme Court, fewer, after we know he's been granted immunity, with
Right.
fewer people there in the professional, and we've been lucky because a few of them apparently hung around and have saved us in a few
Mm-hmm.
situations, have stopped him, and then he ends up firing them or whatever. Done crazy shit like giving us the actual accurate BLS numbers, for example.
Yeah.
And so I'm so angry. I really, again, because I know hatred consumes us and it makes it worse for us, and so I don't want to. But the people that I know who did this willingly, it's
Yeah.
so infuriating.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest blowback line I think that I'm sure you're as tired of hearing it as anybody else. Like, we didn't vote for this. They they didn't vote for this on our side.
Yeah, you fucking
like,
did.
yeah, they kind of did. Yeah, I actually
No,
they
I
did.
wouldn't even give the kinda. I think you're being too kind to them. Everybody knew exactly what the fuck this guy was.
Right. Yeah, and when their side gets upset about it, I got to say, okay, so there was I brought this up. I was just on Steph's show, and I brought up the point that there was sort of this quiet part out loud aspect of Trump that they enjoyed a little bit, but that the quiet part was part and parcel to the success of the Republican Party in getting the wins that they had gotten over the years. Is that whoever it was would move to the center, do this kind of like, I'm here for every American, I'm the president you can have a beer with kind of idea. And then when they get in, the compassionate conservative goes out the window and they start handing over the keys to people like Dick Cheney, and we get into Afghanistan and Iraq, right? Like that was how they used to run. But there was almost like the Republicans, and especially the maggot crowd, became prideful about they want to take credit for this awful. It's not enough that you just get it done. They want to beat their chest about it or something. And so Trump came in and said
they're proud of it. That's it. I mean, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I was just saying, like, the problem is that when you do that, it's when you move to the center and you do have to get a coalition of people, and he did get across the line through this bizarre coalition of people, is that if you're doing it all out loud, what you have to do is promise everybody everything, and out loud, in like overtly. And so you can't hide what you're giving to one group to buy their loyalty from another group that you're giving to buy something the opposite to buy their loyalty, across the spectrum of these issues. And that's where he's trapped, because he promised the Epstein files. He promised, no new wars. And then he's literally bragging about shooting fishing boats out of the water off of Venezuela. And then he's going to retake Bagram. Yeah, right.
Right.
And
you saw this. That this is what my problem is I get that, like, we've crossed such a line in terms of so many people not knowing what reality is, disinformation out there, and it's a whole other conversation, because again, I'm a big free speech proponent, but if we don't try to contend with this and solve this at some point, like we can't have democracy with a populace where a large percentage of people seriously have no clue what's really happening, and thinks that they're eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating the pets who live there, kind of thing. And so the thing is okay, there's those folks, but like when he's going into Michigan, and I think Elon Musk did some of this for him, but who the hell cares? The point is, and you're running ads in Detroit that are saying, we're going to help Israel. And then you're running ads in Dearborn in the same state, like, we're going to help Palestinians. Right. And somehow people can't put together when it's on TV. It's not like it's like hidden in like whatever, that maybe he's a liar and is going to help neither of us or whoever he feels like or whatever, because he's making all the direct opposite promises to people. But no, they go for it and vote for this guy.
Well, and also part of it is it gives cover to people who don't actually, they know what they at least feel like, or they are really voting for. Like, I know he's giving loud lip service to them while he's giving loud lip service to me, but I'm the side I think he's really going to follow through on, and he's BSing the other people all the time. Right. And in some cases
he's a
that
good con man, but that doesn't let people off the hook.
No.
as far as
Well, and because you're benefiting from it. You're literally like you're counting on it. You're counting on it that you're actively wanting to lie. And that's part of the sort of like evangelical lying for Jesus is okay
Yes.
theory, right? That's the
or much worse when you've
Yeah.
got Cardinal Dolan sitting there. Oh wait, am I allowed to
Yeah.
criticize Charlie Kirk yet, or are we still in a Charlie
Of
Kirk
course.
free zone where I
No.
can't say anything, or maybe helicopters will come in?
And certainly you can't quote back anything he said that would contradict the deification of him posthumously.
Or anything that our friend John Fugelsang might point out that Jesus actually said, which would probably go against every single thing Charlie Kirk ever said. But Cardinal Dolan was cool with that because Cardinal Dolan's a lying sack of shit. Yeah, I just said that about a cardinal, so at me if you want. That he could sit there on Fox News and say that about this guy. Hold up this guy as a paragon of virtue. I hope I don't get on an airplane with a black pilot because then I'll know they're not qualified. Yeah, that's the guy. That's the one you want to hold up. In any case, I'm so exhausted by the people that stupidly just. I mean, they really had to reach a level of cognitive dissonance maybe never accomplished in human history to look at this person and think he was at all competent. He was all mentally competent. He would do anything to help anybody ever, anywhere but himself. I mean, the examples were again and again and again and again, and they just bought it. And there were people the first term, who came out after that. There were ranchers and farmers, and people were like, he screwed us up. But nope, all of them bought into it for this next term, and now they're all bankrupt. And
so part of that, let me like push back on what I see anyways amongst their discourse, which is really striking this time, and why I think it's affecting his poll numbers this time in a way that it didn't before. Never mind the lame duck aspect of it. That the idea that he's going to run again, much less survive his whole term, is ridiculous. But let's put that aside. And I don't mean because of anyone else's hand. I mean because he's an old fart and he's decaying right before our eyes.
Well, because his hands are purple and he's got cankles on his cankles, and he clearly has heart disease. And if you're the objective,
and no one cares. No one
terms. It's lucky. I mean, honestly.
No one around him cares enough to actually take care of the man. They're waiting for his demise. They're like a bunch of Skeksis gathered around the lead Skeksis bed, waiting to grab the scepter.
I wrote a piece about that Substack. They're all already,
trial by stone.
And
right.
They're all angling at this point because they know he's
so the first time around, I want to clarify this because I do think it's meaningful to the change in tone and why I don't think the wall is impervious the way it was maybe the first term, is that during the first term you had Democratic control of the House and the Senate at crucial points, and they were able to push back on what he was doing. And to MAGA's mind, what that did was take his perfect plan and scuttle it. The reason it didn't work wasn't because it was a stupid plan. It was the Democrats' fault for not enacting everything he wanted to do. If you let him off the leash, he wouldn't, it would have worked. Right. It would have been successful.
All that went against basic principles of things like gravity. But of course it would have worked because it was Donald Trump and those damn Democrats.
That's exactly right. So that first term they thought that. This time, there is no gravity in terms of the legislative pushback on this. And there is an active abdication of any kind of control from the House or the Senate specifically. No matter what Democrats want as far as censure, they couldn't do it anyways. And in the Republican sense, they are absolutely hands off on even the most normal aspects of it. And so even the budget stuff, they passed a continuing resolution. That's Biden's budget, for God's sake. But they're literally just stepping back you deal with this or whatever. Okay, so the problem is that Trump uses the scapegoating of his enemies to great effect. If he's unpopular, it's because the fake news has made him unpopular, that all the stories are bad. Right. And so but the problem right now is you start kicking people like Kimmel off the air and threatening everybody, and it looks like the media is cowed. Even if they aren't, if it even looks like that, it's harder for MAGA to go, oh, maybe people are crapping on you because or what. At this point, they almost become heroic. If they're still crapping on you in that situation, these guys are butch as shit, I guess. But the problem is this time around, he's off the reins. The tariffs are running fucking rampant insofar as the only restraints are within the cabinet. and it's supposedly just him on a
which
whim.
is to say none.
Right, exactly. Well, I would argue that like Besant punching, a couple of members of the like the gay dude who used to work for Soros is getting into fist fights in the White House around economic policy that
and
he knows doesn't work. Right,
they're having celebrations, which is what mature administrations do.
Sure. And so what I'm saying is that now they don't have that automatic, like, well, the Dems are impeaching him. The Dems are stopping him. The media is shutting him down everywhere. They're telling nothing but bad stories about him because right now the narrative is he's got no reins on him. The House and the Senate are like, whatever you say, boss. And the media is allegedly cowed into subservience with the exception of comedians, in which case you're like, well, what difference would that make? That's why, like, the demonization of the internet, almost like a satanic panic thing with this shooter, has helped them create a temporary, deep dive into that. But that's not anywhere they want to go.
That's not. That's the thing is the Epstein stuff has outlasted that.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
We saw it. He goes to the United Kingdom, and God bless our old. What should we call them? Masters. I'm ready to give the United States back to the UK if they can make it work better, which I think they probably could. But they've got their creative protests, and I love it. They've got the big banner of him and Epstein. Like, he can't get away from that stuff no matter where he goes.
He never will.
No, he won't. And his own people like Comer are so stupid. They keep thinking they're going to debunk it, never having heard of the Streisand effect. All they do is keep it out there by doing that. And Democrats. So, that's out there. Now the questions about his health and his age are out there. So, the stuff with Bibi Netanyahu and his alliance with him, and all these things together have led to, obvious cracks in the coalition there. You have my God, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I have to admit, I never thought I would see that day where she broke with him and started criticizing him, and Tucker Carlson and some of these people, Nick Fuentes, and all of these.
Right.
So, you're seeing those cracks from the right, from just right-wing ideologues. That's not even fair. From fascists, basically.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the people who bought his bullshit somehow after everything they'd seen about him. Like, oh, okay, he's just going to get rid of undocumented immigrants. My cattle ranch runs on undocumented immigrants working for me, but I'm sure that won't affect me. And now they're all fucking bankrupt. Out in these places, and they've got nobody else they can blame. Nobody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's just the Republicans, as you pointed out.
Well, and one of the problems that he really has, and there's a myriad of them, let's be honest, he's got a lot of problems. But one of the biggest ones is not only did he promise everybody everything, like Santa Claus, he also promised that it would be easy.
Yeah,
one of the biggest.
Ukraine,
really
Russia, easy. First day, it's over.
One phone call, it's so easy, and everybody who's running everything right now is so stupid. They're just so dumb. They don't know how anything works. They're ignorant, and you're talking about like politicians who've been in for a long time. You can say they've got ideological capture, or that they're habitually stuck on something that worked before but doesn't work anymore, or times have changed, which is what the kind of we need a new guard argument always is, as if young people are always the solution. I would say Charlie Kirk and everybody at Turning Points USA, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes, the idea that a group of people, just because they're young, will solve the problem is absurd. They can be just as deluded and wrong and racist as anybody else.
Stupid and
yeah,
clearly,
and wisdom normally counts for something.
Realize he was, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So the problem is in selling ease to everyone. And that you're the boss, and that you could just, you can dunk from mid-court, which is what Trump has been selling everybody, is that you've got to at least play really well. If you talk like Muhammad Ali, you can rope a dope, but you better come back at the end and nail it. And
you got to deliver at some point. Something,
and that can only go on so long, right? And right now, these are judging from his health, these are late rounds, and they're aware of it. and it's not easy. And he's even come out and said this about Ukraine and Russia, right? He's even come out and said, I thought this would be the easiest, and it's actually the hardest. And why did he think it was easiest? Because his relationship with Vladimir Putin, like he'd do it, like give me a solid, like, dude, this guy is murdering tens of thousands of people monthly.
Correct.
He's kidnapped 70,000 children. Like,
right. As
this
the
isn't
worst dictators in history. So yeah, I'm sure he's not playing you.
right. And so like the idea that you're like talk him out of it is just madness to start with. But Trump seems to have genuinely believed it, and it might be because that's what Putin told him in an attempt to
I'd bet that.
Yeah,
honestly.
that as soon as you get in, buddy, I'll cover it, knowing that he's a lame duck and he can't do anything about it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, so the issue that he has is that when you sell ease and that you can dunk from midcourt, you really do run up against a wall in this, because you got to deliver on a level that is impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
He doesn't
the
believe
issue.
in setting expectations low. He believes in lying his ass off and setting expectations way beyond what anybody could do, even an actual talented, smart, charming, intellectually solid kind of person who comes in and really. Now we're talking about him.
Right.
So, I mean, he can't get anything done with anybody. He can only do it through illegal. And I don't say all executive orders. I'm talking about his, where it's like, oh, we're in an emergency. I think I'll take over the control of tariffs, which is unconstitutional. But
Right.
of course, Mike Johnson won't do anything about it. And those kinds of things. That's the only way you can do anything. So I mean, the only group, or the only sort of, and they all kind of overlap. I think the only groups of people that he's made, really happy are like vicious fascist oligarch billionaires.
Right.
Are basic, everyday, vicious racists who just love seeing innocent Latinos and others getting beaten up by masked ICE members. Crazy, far right Christian evangelicals that don't actually believe anything that Christianity is, that are in a cult and just want to hurt people. And like Project 2025 authors who are dorky little loser incels that nobody talked to in school, and come on, I mean, and all these groups overlap somewhat. So, what percentage of the population is that? Not a ton.
Right.
He's at 39% approval recently, and I was kind of surprised he was that high. So,
well, and again, 35 is the absolute bottom. And 39, you will find he pops up, like Rasmussen even pointed out recently, and I think we're finally up on Substack, which is good. Rasmussen, and if you haven't had a chance, check out Cliff Schecter's Substack, which is Cliff's Edge on Substack as well. Is it not? I believe that's right. If I'm not,
it's blueamp.co, but
blueamp.co.
My column there. It's it's good enough. You'll find me there. Yeah, Cliffs_Edge is still the what do you call it? The handle. So you can get me there.
That's right. That's the easiest thing that will drag you there, as well as on YouTube. Yeah. So good. So Substack. So the again the selling of easy to MAGA and then not delivering, or that delivering this message. Well, especially months in, that there's going to be a little bit of pain when it comes to prices for groceries and the like for a while. And then recently his whole thing of like, wait till you see in a year or two when the factories are built.
Right, that's going to happen. No, I think the Weimar Republic level inflation will probably start sooner.
Yeah, and again, it's not coming down anytime soon, especially if you devalue the dollar at the same time in an attempt to lower interest rates. And now, why does he want interest rates to come down? Over time, as a way of fighting inflation, you want to, you're going to bring up your interest rates, and you're going to, tighten the money supply and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And there's been a lot of talk about how the Fed, in my personal opinion, and then later Bloomberg and all these other guys realized I've been right the entire time, which was that we didn't have monetary inflation. We have supply shock from COVID, and now we're trying to reshore shit, which causes a cost increase of inflation that is not monetary. It has nothing to do with the amount of money in circulation. It's that the material cost of building shit getting the materials and the labor involved is more expensive. If you build an
Pushing
iPhone
stuff.
here,
Yeah, I mean,
right,
which makes sense.
versus
Like it's common sense. I mean,
yeah, right. It's the most logical kind of thing. And again, everybody's sort of like writing these mea culpa articles on all the economic papers after Trump gets elected about this shit when they were stomping all over what they thought was Democrats spending too much. And again, this goes to COVID. COVID blew a $20 trillion hole in the economy and the erasure of businesses and the seizing of it up. And we filled that hole with $9 trillion of quantitative easing or stimulus, and you can't fill a $20 trillion hole with $9 trillion. It doesn't happen. Half of what Trump is promising about money coming back in of investment in the country is stuff that had been held off and paused that needs to happen for the regular function of these companies that they were holding off because of COVID and because of people slowly working their way back to offices and then the Chips and Science Act. So the mix. And
now
of those
think about think about this for a second, because this is important too, right? If the Chips Act, as you pointed out, is not passed, if they don't pass the biggest of all, did any Republicans vote for the COVID stimulus? If they did, it was maybe a half dozen.
Right.
To get shots in arms and get us moving and get funds to people. They all voted against that. Like the only thing they voted for, and any of them voted for that you can give them any credit for, and it still was like 20%, 15% of their caucus, was the infrastructure bill, which did help and did create some economic activity and create some jobs. But they voted against almost all of that. So as you're pointing out, as they're trying to fill that $20 billion hole, if it had been up to Republicans, instead of with $9 billion, instead of with 9, it would have been more like 2. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. And
it would have been a jettisoning collapse. It would have been, again, we're back into a situation where 2000, we're back to 2008 into 2009, and everybody talking about like the number of people that went on food stamps under Obama was the highest ever. And it's like, because it all happened in January through whatever August of 2009, when the economy was collapsing because of the previous administration basically flicking the house of cards as they went out the door.
Biden basically saved us. I mean, it would have, not Biden himself, but they all did, and that package and all of it stopped what would have been, if we'd followed Republican policy at that time, we'd be in something akin to the Great Depression right now. And you know what? Maybe we should have. Maybe that would have been better. Because maybe all of these people need to fucking learn their lesson. Maybe
because it's all. That's the problem with being a Democrat, though, Cliff, is that you got to care about people even if they don't care about themselves.
No, it's not that I don't care about them. It's not that. That's not what I mean. Even what I'm saying, I don't want revenge. It's not about vengeance or anything. What I'm saying is maybe it would have been better because if people realized that this is what Republican policies do, like they did with Herbert Hoover, then maybe we would have never gone back to someone like Trump, and we would have been looking at 30 years of Democratic control again. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying it because I want anybody to specifically hurt.
Exactly, and that's the problem. That's why you can't. That's why, like, Democrats are always in suffer the sort of Gordian knot problem of picking up the pieces or cleaning up the mess after a Republican, no matter who it is, and trying to make life as easy and as fluid and as, and making sure it continues to flow normally and get back to status quo as quickly as possible to almost an impossible level. Amongst, in whether it's 2009, or 2021, or even, after Reagan and Bush won, with Clinton creating a surplus over the course of 8 years and then letting it be ravaged and spent on war by the Republicans again.
Every cycle, that's
every time
they screw it all up, and we come in.
So what Democrats need to do is, how Trump is always blaming Biden for all of his problems, that he doesn't own the economy. It's his on day one until it isn't, and then it's not to the end of the year, and it's all Biden's fault.
It's his for any good numbers and not for any bad numbers.
Right. Democrats actually have math and economic numbers to back their stuff, and so they've got a chest beat this next time around, and it's going to happen because Republicans are not going to want to fix this. And by the way, your audio is a little low coming my way. Can you boost it a touch on your end? Just to bring it up a bit.
Move this a little closer too, and then let's see what we can do about it.
Just to make sure I got audio from you. Let's see what we got. Check.
I'd be very upset if you can't. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks. So
Lower. I don't know why it lowers itself on its own, which is kind of
sometimes,
stupid.
yeah, sometimes it will auto. There's like software will like auto level it. I'm like, don't do me any favors.
It's
I can
just
see a
like, Cliff,
meter.
you're too loud. I'm going to
Right.
make you lower, which I get it.
So
I'm too loud, but
right. So
would you want me on here if I wasn't?
right. So, Democrats need to start chest beating, and I've been pushing this lately, and it needs to like reach like kind of the zeitgeist of the Democratic side, which is that if we had proudly applauded the creation of all the programs that Democrats have created to help the poor and the disenfranchised and the workers and everybody, as loudly as we scream when they are dismantled by the Trumps of the world, we wouldn't be in this
Yep.
mess. We would
Or
not
if
be.
when we created these programs, infrastructure bill, okay, so some Republicans only some in the right, in the ones who voted for it could come along for the ride and come and be there for, but when it came to something like the COVID stimulus bill, and we were handing out checks in various places as part of that, literally, it should be that every Democrat stands up with one of those checks, which is what Republicans try to disingenuously do, and says, here, we created this. This is what we did. This is why you're being funded. This is why your small business isn't going out of business. This is why this child care center is staying open.
These loans are why Marjorie Taylor Greene could run for office. Right.
If we would do that, I mean, you're right. I mean, like we just are so challenged in having a simple, straightforward message about how awful they are, which is really not that difficult if you want to put that together. And I mean, it's really pretty straightforward and easy. And then on the other side of things, who we are and what we stand for, look at the common strands of what, of what we've done to either respond to how awful they are or just to help people. And it lends itself to easily creating, a simple narrative about what we're for, with a couple of key talking points, a couple of key repetitive messages underneath that narrative that reinforce it. And I still, for the life of me, cannot understand why this is not one of the highest priorities, why we don't do this, why it's not being done, on social media, why it's not being done on all sorts.
I'll tell you exactly why it's not being done. Because there is a natural aversion to propaganda, which is, I think, healthy. But but that was created during a time when the government talking about its stuff was sort of always compared to Germany, or Stalinist or Maoist artwork of soldiers and people staring off into the sunrise at the greatness that is the movement. And it's
you're very right about that. But when
that's
the other side
embarrassing
starts
and lame
behaving like that, you have to, realize that they've now become Germany or Stalin or Mao. And if you don't adapt and respond to that by realizing, okay, this is not our perfect world. It's not my perfect world. I believe in, I would hope for good government. I would hope for, Citizens United never existing and reasonable money spent in elections that's completely regulated and all these kinds of things, but that they haven't accepted that that's not the world we're in. And I don't, even if you're uncomfortable doing it, get past it. You have to brag about the things you've done, because if not, they will take credit.
Learn from people with egos like me and Cliff Schecter. But
exactly, I'll tell you all fucking day long. No, I'm just kidding. But
I will.
I don't like talking about things I've accomplished, and I've made myself, because I have realized along the way you do have to do that. You do have to be your own booster, and Democrats need to do that. I'm sorry. So if you're uncomfortable with it, you're uncomfortable with it. But if it's about the saving the republic, open your mouth and let people know that when they get a check at a various program that that helps save something, you did it. The other asshole voted against it.
Right.
The one
exactly.
with the R next to their name.
And if anybody criticizes any part of it, go. I'll tell you what. Nobody creates a perfect program. I'm doing the best I can to create the most perfect thing I can possibly. If you have a problem with what it doesn't do, go talk to everybody who voted against it, because no one is more responsible for the things it doesn't solve than the people who didn't vote with us. Because we could have gotten so much more if they'd have come along for the ride. That you just throw that in their face and go ask anybody who voted against this. That I'm, and they'll tell you how their plan is awesome, and then break that down. Start kicking the tires on the thing that isn't actually helping anybody right now, and
Right. I mean,
especially
the
when.
most amazing statistic to me, Hal, and
Mhm.
I can't believe it. I should repeat this every show. You should.
Mhm.
We all should. I'd have to look up the exact date, but it's been about, I think, I'm trying to remember if it was Reagan's second term or just since Reagan. I mean, maybe since Reagan, right? Because you had an equal number of Democratic and Republican presidencies, right?
Yeah.
And in that time, there have been, and this was something that was put out a couple months ago, so it's probably changed a little bit, although not much because Trump created 22,000 jobs last month. So I don't think that changed this much, but something like 51 million jobs have been created and 49 million of them were under Democrats. Just
Yeah.
think about that for a second and think about that. That is an actual factual truth. I only may be a little bit off, but that is just about right. And that we haven't made sure that every single human in America knows that.
Yeah.
Think
So I
about what
made this.
Republicans would do with that. Just think
Yeah.
about it.
So I made this wonderful little counter on the suggestion of our dear friend CSL, and that at one point I think it was Glenn Beck had a thing up like number of days of this Jan 6 hostages being held or some nonsense like that. And so I made a little counter that automatically updates every day. And it's been 244 days since Donald Trump got sworn in, where the Epstein
Can I
files
steal
have
that from you and share it?
I insist. I will send you the script for it.
Do it. I'm screenshotting it right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? I would much rather have like the actual thing you've got, because I think, again, us repetition through our various platforms, people
right.
need to see this stuff.
Right. So and again, I will CSL like winking at me, but he was like, I literally I'm a big fan of it. Like, I'm always terrible at selling my show because I like the monetary aspect of it. I think I suffer from the same kind of artist thing, like putting a number on what my
Right.
art comedy time thought is worth is very weird because it's not the same thing as ditch digging, but it's not worthless. So there's a weird aspect of just like numbering. I'm sure journalists have the same issue. Because you're like, well, my flight cost something to fly into town, and I had to question these people, so there was gas money. But past that point, how do you put a marker on your intellectual effort, right? So that's always been a tough part. But as far as its value,
Right.
Added to people's lives, I stand by all my art, whether I've done it for free or I've done it for a network. That's never been a problem for me, where I will beat my chest about, like, again, I said this on Steph's show today. My Flappers shows that I do once a month that I improvise, and come up with very little material that I've ever said before, if any. Most of the time I try,
Right.
to not do any. I'll stand those shows up against anything on Netflix any day of the week, and no matter who they are. and all of them, even my worst one, I think, which is is better than Rogan's last special that he spent a year writing. So I'll throw that down with anybody. No worries.
He's probably
whatsoever.
spoken up with Elon the whole time, though. So
Right, that's true. So he's got plenty of reach on it. But I will say that so I don't have a problem with that ego part of it. So if anybody can learn a lesson from me about that, that's what I have the ability
same with me
to teach.
again. Like, I don't mean that as false, like, modesty.
No.
I can be proud of things I've done and whatever, but for the longest time I wouldn't say certain stuff, and I'll be, and not share accomplishments. And it's like, you have to learn to do that. You do,
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. I mean, a lot of people, I don't even think there are people that knew I wrote a book. Well, I wrote a book on John McCain. It was a bestseller, 2008. I didn't have the Heritage Foundation buy 10 billion copies. In fact, nobody helped me at all on the Democratic side. That'll be shocking. I had to go out and put together a digital strategy of my own. I got it on TV. I got it on Jon Stewart's show. It sold 24,000 or something like that copies, which for a political book ain't bad. It's not fucking, the Da Vinci Code, trust me. But and at one point was not only, in the top 20, number 17 on Amazon overall, but it was number 2 among political books behind a guy named Obama. There you go. I just bragged about it because
there you go.
I have to remind people every once in a while. I did that, right? You know what? I can then tell you I got a D in high school chemistry. I fucked plenty of things up too. I'll take credit for that too. So,
Well, here
It goes
and
both ways.
so my point for Democrats is that when you come up with stuff like SNAP and S-chip and Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, every functional aspect of the Farm Bill that isn't a giveaway to big agribusiness, the NIH, the CDC, all these things are crafted by people who give a damn about people, even if they don't share your ideology, that they just want
Right.
human lives to be around. Because I have faith in my fellow human beings that if I've got enough runway, I can land this plane, and you and I can talk somebody. I'm sure there are cultish Jonestown-y types out there, but your vast majority of Republicans, at some point, I can go, look, we agree on the problem, we don't agree on the solution. What parts do we agree on? Can we save those people right now? And then you and I can bitch at
Right.
each other at a bar. That's not hard to go by. And there's room to do it all over the place. And there's, I think, a real push, both from the Republican side, especially around Trump. They're worried about a coalition building. Massey and Ro Khanna scares the living hell out of Donald Trump. That more than anything is.
Listen, listen. You're as a guy originally born and raised in Kentucky. I remember seeing Massey once. This is a long time before before he took maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago in the Cincinnati airport before he took on obviously Trump these days and whatever. And I remember he was one of those ones who took like what I called the Manson family Christmas card with everybody around the tree
Yeah.
with assault rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this guy's absolutely a lunatic and irresponsible and insane. And, I'm still going to say that to a large degree. But here's what else I'm going to say, because I'm going to be quite honest about it. He has been quite simply the most effective Republican elected official in going after Donald Trump since Trump has been in either
Absolutely.
term of Trump being
The
president.
only one that has shown
So,
any actual courage, which,
yes,
again,
all the other ones, the only other one you can find that took Trump on while they were in office was Liz Cheney. And she sat on the January 6th committee and other stuff, but not with the day-to-day ferocity that
mm-hmm.
Massey takes him on and talks about what a liar he was and how he promised this stuff to these right-wing Republicans like
Right.
him. And because all these ones are like, oh, well, I endorse Joe Biden now or Kamala Harris. It's like, thanks, Jeff Flake, for doing that when you're 4 years out of office.
Right.
But when
Yeah.
you're in office, not barely doing a fucking thing.
Right. Pulling out
Like,
Susan
great to
Collins
have you
every
now.
turn. Right.
Right. And I will say this, I almost felt like writing a piece specifically on Massey because he's the first one who presents a legitimate danger to Trump because of the fact that he's so popular in his district that Trump went after him and he still won there. So
Yeah.
Trump can't seem to stop this guy. And he has just made it his mission to just take Donald Trump on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as much as he likes to play a dumb guy on, as a lot of these guys do, because they feel like they have to for the yokels in their party, he went to MIT. He's not an idiot.
Right. Well, okay. So Massey, look, it's a couple other things. Like, this is weird. Where this is where we go into the zone of where we try to legislate social change. Either direction, there's always backlash when you try to establish stuff like that. And you got to be aware of that when you're heading down that road. Always know that the people who are against it are always going to, are going to plan a long strategy of rekindling it. And in the same way that these people are still smarting over gay marriage, women are still, are planning a return to getting their rights back as far as abortion rights and the like. So that's always what happens when you try to legislate things that are a matter of personal choice and should be between you and your priest, you and your God, you and your lack thereof, and you and your doctor. Anytime you try to make, or your partner, whenever you try to legislate that, you're always going to gack those up. And that has eaten up a big chunk of our political discourse. And some of it has to, because it was denying people rights, and it will. You just got to understand that's going to be there, and that fight's always going to be there. But there's a bunch of other stuff all the time that, because gravity is real, especially when you deal with like House members and to some degree some senators, that you
now
can't.
Again, I'm not sure they all accept that it's real.
Well, I'll give you an example though.
With all the other things we now deny. Right, that COVID vaccines cause more harm than COVID, and now that having a gun makes you more safe, and all the other genius ideas that have come out of that
I
party
agree, but I think that again, look at the runway on measles, for example, and like as the cases rise and we litigate this stupidity. This is not the first time we've done this either.
No,
the
no, I
government
know.
was,
So I'm just
yeah.
saying at this point,
So
maybe
Massey in
we've reached the
particular,
point where some of them are gravity deniers. And
totally.
honestly, if they want to go check that out, go right ahead.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all I
right.
would
Just
say.
I would say like
Go test
I
it.
think I agree
Go
with Bill
just
Hicks. Take off from the ground, but
right.
if
Yeah.
you really believe it. But in the case of Massey, I showed a documentary that somebody did about him. That's largely a giant campaign ad. That's exactly why we should have Citizens United, I suppose. But the idea is that this documentary was like showing how he lives in Kentucky. This dude has solar panels all over his house that were paid for in large part by the tax credit that made them available under Obama and Biden, period.
Of course.
Secondly, he recaptures rainwater from his house for irrigation and specifically has this like tiered garden that catches rainwater off the roof. It's straight up hippie shit. That like if you found out this guy's house was in fucking Haight Ashbury near the
Right.
park,
You'd
you wouldn't
believe
be
it, is what you're
surprised at
saying.
all. Right. So there's clearly some overlap and some shit that you can just kind of like, okay, let's put on your personal bigotries aside for a second and deal with what we can legislate. And then you obviously are all in on renewable energy because less reliance on our foreign enemies. Is that the reason? Fine. Then that's what we'll talk
Yeah,
about
that's what you
to
want.
get you
We'll
there.
go with that.
We'll go
Right.
there, right? Let's if even though if I'm just saying I don't want to damage the environment. You don't think that's the issue, but we have to buy it from someplace else or dig up our parks to get it. It's a mess. How about that? And they will sign on to it, and they do. And that's
The only
where
question is, and there are
that's
a
what
few
the
others,
maggots are
things like
afraid
here
of.
and there they're definitely afraid. I mean, again, Massey has been by far the most effective. And again, I say this all the time, which is when people are like, oh, that's just one voice. One voice at times has changed the world. One
Yes.
voice, speaking out gives other people courage every time you do something like that. And I do. I think Massey taking the stands that he's taken and showing to be completely unafraid of Donald Trump has led Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and a couple, and I don't believe that they're doing it for the right reasons, but I don't really care.
Right.
Some of the other ones that have started speaking out against him, there's a few others too. The question is, how many of them can we get? Because obviously we need a certain number. If the number remains the same who have voted to release the Epstein files, we still will have to deal with the Senate though, and that and that will not be easy. But in the
Right.
House, if the number remains the same, then this election coming up tomorrow in Arizona for the late Raul Grijalva's seat, which his daughter is running in. So the name Grijalva is on the ballot in a very Democratic seat, and the only reason we didn't have enough Democrats, same thing with the late Jerry Connolly seat that we won in a big way a week or so ago. We had lost some people who had passed away. Well, now when they fill this seat tomorrow, depending upon how long it takes for them to be sworn in,
Yep.
we will have the votes unless one of the Republicans chickens out
Right.
and backs off. So,
Yes.
I mean, again, every one of these seats does matter. It's just, will they have the courage to stand there and stay with Massey when their vote is going to make a difference and not just be, virtual.
Right. Well, I
virtue
think the
signaling.
problem is which direction does the courage go? Because on the one hand, if you're going to steal your spine against Trump, or are you going to steal your spine against the maggot QAnon group that got you there, that is more fixated on the Epstein files than they are on Donald Trump right now, or
That's a great point.
or thinks that he really wants them to release it, but the Jews around him or whoever's controlling him won't let him do it, and therefore you've got to help him do it in the same way that if you can call Jesus' bluff, he'll come back sooner. So right? That honestly, like they
I know you're being
believe-
honest. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's not funny. Still.
Right, totally. That this cultish idea that like Trump really wants to do this, he just has to pretend he can't or whatever, so that some of his donors will attack the Republican Party, and so he's got to act like he doesn't want to help, and then he really wants them. I'm helping him, and this goes to the Judas was the most beloved apostle theory, which is when Jesus said, "One of you will betray me," and that's necessary to the entire thing. If there's no Judas, there's no crucifixion. If there's no crucifixion, there's no Messiah. None of it. Somebody's got to do it. And so Judas was the good
I like the
guy.
Mel Brooks version of the Last Supper better myself, but
Right, where they're all like they're there for dinner, and he's holding the plate up behind him.
one of you will betray me tonight. Judas, super salad.
Yeah, right. But that was or the old joke, they're sitting around the table and he goes, "One of you shall betray me." And Peter goes, "Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord?" And he goes, "No, Peter, you are the rock on which my church will be built." And Luke says, "Is it I, Lord?" And he goes, "No, you should be the scribe of my kingdom and teach the nations." And Judas goes, "Is it I, Lord?" And Jesus goes, "Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord?" Right. But the point being is that that is a well-known, especially amongst like evangelicals, is the idea that Judas was actually the most beloved, that he wasn't evil, he was necessary. Without him, there is no, he
Right.
carried the burden. He killed himself because Jesus died. It wasn't that he was betraying him. He was ashamed because he thought it was going to work. He thought Jesus was going to rise up like a real leader. When they cut the dude's ear off, he would like raise up like with bazookas and start blowing everybody away. And this kind of like,
That's sort of Republican
Donald
Jesus
Trump
is,
crypto Jesus, right?
right.
And
MAGA crypto
right,
supply side.
and when he didn't, and they took him, he was like, "Oh dear, what have I done?" And he killed himself. Right? That's the story. So there are a bunch of maggots who view themselves as Trump's goodly Judas. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
And they believe that they
That
have
sounds
to release.
totally non-cult-like, by the way. And
Yeah,
normal.
right. Oh, and that's Roseanne. That's the Roseanne crowd. Is that none of them believe he was close to Epstein all that time, or that he was part of it or whatever. That he knew anything about it, even though he was closer to him than almost anyone else. That basically Epstein was replaced Fred in his life, his brother. He's only had two relationships,
Right.
real friendships in his life. One was to replace his dad, which was Roy Cohn, and the other was to replace his brother, which was Fred. And that was Jeffrey Epstein. Both of them dead pedophiles, and these were his best friends. But they live with this idea that they can't be wrong about this. And that's actually worse for him, because if they thought they could be wrong, they'd fucking draw back and like, "Oh shit, maybe I don't want to look through that door. Maybe I don't want to go through that door." Right? But they can't believe it.
Yeah.
They have written it off. So they are fearlessly wanting to go, "Let's give it all out," right? And
Sometimes
he can't have that.
you can make your own cult too crazy and cultish,
Yes.
even for you.
That's how all cults end. That's how
Yes.
they either, if you don't successfully
You end up castrating yourself because you think you're going to end up on a spaceship above you, and it just doesn't work out that way.
And if
now
you
you're
don't-
like, well, I have no
and if you
testes
don't
anymore.
do it, the remaining members will hunt you down.
Yep.
That's and
always remember that's where we got the drinking the Kool-Aid phrase from, Jim
That's right.
Jones. And I mean, you kind of look back at the leisure suits and all the stuff that Jim Jones wore and the sunglasses. You can see some Donald Trump in him. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, no question. You can more see like Donald Trump like learning from all these guys, looking at cult leaders, and that whole idea of he had that book of Hitler speeches on his nightstand. First of all, he doesn't read, but secondly, the idea was that he wanted.
Maybe there are a few pictures he could have picked something up from. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not available in Cliff Notes. Nobody was going to be, or Spark Notes. It's interesting that you and I both have namesake study guide
That's right.
things.
Spark Notes and Cliff Notes. I feel like you and I should put that together and turn that into some kind of something.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got to figure that
Clark
out.
bars. We'll figure it out. But the point is that he may have thought he could learn from, like I have a book on, I think it's called How to Cheat at Everything. This like CIA like mind fuck book from years ago that was sold as a business book, right?
Of course.
Right. And
During
I have
during our late stage capitalism, that sounds exactly like the book that
when I bought it, I did it when I was doing Celebricadabra on VH1 because it was written by a magician. It was written by a magician who taught tricks to the CIA, who literally came in and was like, "I'll teach everybody how to do magic tricks because that skill is invaluable."
That actually sounds. I mean, in all seriousness, that sounds kind of fascinating. Even,
it's a great book. It's terrific.
Need a private equity guy to read it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they're right. Well, and I read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I can't believe hasn't been made into a movie.
I read that one too. That was
right. So I'm not averse to reading books about, by, and for awful people. I've read the Turner Diaries. I have not read Mein Kampf, but I have read Atlas Shrugged all the way through. And Yeah,
basically just it's almost like Mein Kampf, translated into English. You're fine.
yeah, but like
It's not
whinier, I
really. I'm
guess.
kidding,
Is
but
it
like
all?
I mean,
No, but like,
she's great.
yeah, how
Worldwide
dare
great.
it's more like a Greta Thunberg speech. Like, how dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. You can't tell me how to live. But
That's right.
anyways, yeah. But yeah, somebody's like Adolf Hitler pop-up book. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we found out that was a pop-up book, a
Like a
version of the
Hitler.
speeches.
You probably had it was like a pop-up like kids book or something. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Hitler
Hitler.
lays down beside
Yeah,
the lions. And,
yeah, right.
like that kind of shit.
Being a pseudo-Nazi for dummies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now I've got Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, waiting in the wings, and I'm going to bring her in just a moment. But I want to thank you,
Sure.
for being with us today, lovely and
Yes.
talented Cliff Shaker. We have to do this again very soon.
Let's not wait as long.
No, let's not.
That's not to blame you, or it's my fault too. We just both have had stuff and things going on. But
Yeah,
we'd
we're
love to-
busy people. We got a lot of shaking
we
going
got
on.
stuff, man. There's fascism out there. Or there's
Mhm.
got to eat lunch sometimes. There's
Yeah,
stuff.
right. Even just breaking bread at some point. I will be in your neck of the woods sometime around the holidays, so
Outstanding.
we'll try to get together and hang during that period of time. That'd be lovely.
That sounds great.
I'm also
We'll
going to go
definitely do
fly
that.
in
Maybe we can
and
do another one from the office here. That was fun.
yeah, that's right. I've got to fly into Kentucky and because my dad's getting on in years and with his dialysis and stuff, it gets a bit rough. So I'm thinking about sometime in the near future before winter breaks, flying in and doing a honey-do list thing for them because I got to set up a electric battery system for their house so that in case the power goes out while he's on dialysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a thing. And they're out in the country where an ambulance is a long trip, so that's a priority for me. So I won't be off the air, guys. You won't have to worry. I will be on. I will just be doing it from his office. But we will do that together very soon. And everybody needs to check out blueamp.co. Is it?
Yep, that's it.
And
That
then of
is
course
it. Blueamp.co
Cliffs
is the,
_edge on Substack and on Blue Sky. And I don't know if you're still on Shitter.
I am, but I don't do anything there. And Blue Sky, I'm on. I do a few things, but as long as you got me at YouTube and Substack, that's 80
Those
to
are the main ones.
90% of where you
There you
find
go.
me. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much,
Awesome.
brother. We will talk again soon.
Thanks, man.
Let's chat offline as well too, because I have a couple things to run by you as well. I'd like to pick your brain.
Absolutely.
So,
My brain is in need of a picking. So let's do it.
I've said that a couple of times, and people, as they said in Mindhunter, well, that's another life sentence. So
That's
all right.
true. Be careful
All right.
about, I won't. Well,
Yeah.
we'll end the jokes and let Tara come on. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely and talented Cliff Schechter. And let me do my little switcheroo thing and bring in Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock and is waiting in the wings. And I'm sure we'll have a thing or two to say about a thing or two. 3, 2, 1. There she is.
Nah.
Yeah, there she is. Hi.
Hi, I don't have any strong opinions. I don't know what you're talking about.
Good woman. You've learned a lot from the
Hi.
Turning Points USA
Hi.
crowd, right? Good for you.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes,
Hi, well,
broodmare
it's
for
been
the
another-
state. Right. Get
Hi.
in line. Right.
The leader is good. The leader is right.
Do you like my new
yeah.
counter, by the way? My little.
I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's excellent. And I think that everybody should now be in the process of reminding everyone else
Mhm.
that one of Charlie Kirk's final wishes was to see the fully unredacted
right.
Epstein files.
That's why I put it up there in
Now-
honor of Charlie. There you go.
Do it. Hashtag do it for Charlie.
Right.
Like do it for Johnny from The Outsiders. We're doing it for
Mhm.
Charlie. Do it for Charlie. I never agreed with Charlie Kirk about anything except releasing the Epstein files, and that's enough for me. That's enough
Mhm.
common ground right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a point where you, I think, have
Yeah.
to put a pin in something and just go, okay. Well, I know. I hate ignominy. We all fight about this. But you and I agree on this. Okay. Cool. Point. Let's just do
Exactly.
that.
Lean
We're
in.
both good.
Lean
That's good.
into
Let's
that.
do that. Point.
So,
Let's
yeah.
let's
So,
go have a bite.
hi,
How about we all
everybody.
we'll take a break and we'll hit it
Hi.
all good on Monday, right?
Hi. Everybody in the chat. Hi, everybody in the chat. Let me just bring everybody. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping from last Monday. So first of all, the sparklers are the best people. And
Yes.
I appreciate you all so very much, because if you weren't here last Monday, I was angry and frustrated and some feelings came out of me, which is fine. I wasn't upset in that nobody hurt my feelings. I was just mad and frustrated. And that's what I look like and sound like when I'm mad and frustrated. And I think it's fine to let people see your humanity from time to time. So, but anyway, things got so much more interesting and better as soon as we signed off last Monday. Because one thing I wrote, I have my notes, I wrote them all down so I could just like knock them out like bullet points. On Monday, as almost immediately after we were done, I found out that on Sunday, Fox News Sunday, last Sunday, so the 14th, they quietly confirmed Donald Trump's signature on the Epstein letter. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this because what did we talk about all last week? Jimmy Kimmel. Nobody's talking about the Fox thing, and it's killing me because that should be the biggest story. Now, we've laid Charlie Kirk to rest, hopefully, and if you're going to keep dancing on his corpse, please remember that he wanted the full Epstein files released. So that, and over this last week, I saw both the best and worst of humanity, clearly, because there was the reporting of the texts that no one believed were real, that I don't care if you don't believe them, they were real. The tweets that I got about them were worse. But every other social media that I posted the harassment on about, everyone else had a normal human reaction, which is, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Is there anything that you need? What can I do for you? People I hadn't heard from in a long time had seen some of the stuff, like this guy I used to like do stuff with like a decade ago was like, hey, you still have my number, right? If you need anything. And I'm like, no, I don't, but thank you. Anyway, but finding out that Fox confirmed the signature on the letter, I think is a major development and a good talking point for us, which is why it keeps getting squashed and we have to keep making that rise to the top. So that was a good thing that helped me. On Tuesday on the Tara Show, we had this guy, Dr. Jeff Grammer, who's a psychiatrist and former military, who we had booked before the Charlie Kirk thing happened. He would be a great guest for your show because as former military psychiatrist, he specializes in like PTSD, but he also was talking about this, you know, this, the trauma around Charlie Kirk and the way they behave and all of that. So talking to him was really helpful at this particular time. And he was incredibly generous. And he spent time with both Devlin and me off the air when we finished, because she's a wonderful human being also, as you know, and very concerned about me. And one of the things that she was very pushy, and that she was like, you got to change your phone number, Dublin. You can't let them have them do that. And I'm like, no, you know, they don't get to do that. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to move. I can't afford to move. I can't afford anything, but I'm not getting a new phone number. I'm not deleting my social media. You know, I'm not doing the things they want me to do. And Dr. Jeff said, you know, you seem to have very strong boundaries and you don't seem to be making hasty, impulsive decisions. And you are doing what's authentic and right for you. Continue doing that and you will be able to get through this. And I was like, awesome. On Wednesday, I found out the funniest thing that made me so happy, because one of the talking points that they have been using with the shooter, you'll recall, who was one person named Tyler Robinson. One of their many myriad talking points that they're trying to make stick was that he got radicalized in college. Don't send your kids to college. College will turn your kids into a liberal transgender person or whatever. And I was like, but he went to a technical college with the word Dixie in it. That doesn't sound like a liberal enclave to me. But what I found out on Wednesday, while I was still being trolled over my text, there's a representative in Ohio, Republican MAGA, real shitbag. Turns out I went to college with him at Emerson College in Boston. And if you don't know one thing about Emerson College, let me tell you, it is a major liberal arts college. Huge liberal arts. Major. Henry Winkler went there. David Cross went there. Jennifer Coolidge went there. Jay Leno went there. I went there for 2 years and then I had a transfer. But Mike Rulli from Ohio, Representative Mike Rulli, R-U-L-L-I. Sophomore year, 1988, lived in the dorm across the street from mine, had a huge crush on my roommate, was going hard for my roommate, and brought a friend of his into town, and the four of us drove to Providence, Rhode Island to see the Ramones at the Living Room. I will never forget this night. because I almost died because Mike Ruley thought it would be super funny to push little me into the mosh pit. And that was not funny, Mike Ruley. But what I think is hilarious is now I can say, I wonder how your liberal arts education at Emerson College radicalized you into becoming a MAGA dick. Still no answer. And I called his office on Friday, just for shits and giggles, because his tweets are bad, like they're red meat, MAGA, shitbags, shitty stuff with the fake Christian stuff thrown in for good measure.
Sure.
And sure. And I was told, I talked to the very scared sounding young lady who answered. She was like, yeah. I was like, well, is your comms director available? Because that's usually how this goes. I talk to the comms director, I get their email, and then I can ask all the questions, and I know that's not your job to answer anyway. And she comes back a few minutes later. She goes, yeah, I'm going to take your information, and my comms director is going to get back to you. I was like, really? You can't just give me his email? And she's like, no, he's going to reach out to you. Does anyone want to put a wager on when that's going to happen? Because it hasn't happened yet. Okay, Thursday, I'm going through the week as quickly as Thursday. So what I did was, by the way, since Monday, I spoke to an FBI agent on Monday from my local field office, by the way, going back. After you and I were done, I spoke to a local FBI agent, and she was like, okay, yes, this is real. We're gonna move this case forward to national. And I was like, great. Under Kash Patel, I don't expect to hear anything. On Thursday during the Tara show, I get this call from a San Juan, Puerto Rico phone number. And if you think I'm picking up a phone number, I don't know, you're crazy. But it turns out that the person who left me a voicemail actually was an FBI agent in the San Juan, Puerto Rico office. And I spent a nice time speaking with her, and she was wonderful. And now there's a real case. Great. And I have a direct line, and she was great. I hope, and I said to her at the end of it, I was like, this has been amazing, and thank you so much for hearing me and honoring me, and thank you for all of this help and this phone number that I can use, but I hope I never have to speak to you ever again. And she was like, same. But she said, you're doing everything right, and you're keeping great notes. Awesome, great, keep going, do what you're doing.
Right.
Awesome, right?
Yep.
On the same day, I also spoke with someone in my Senator Ron Wyden's office because she heard what happened to me, and she called the FBI to make sure that they were aware that one of Ron Wyden's constituents was being harassed. And then I talked to her. She's like, if you talk to the FBI, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ahead of you there. And so I thought that was amazing that someone in my senator's office, this is why Democrats are fantastic. She went the extra mile for someone she does not know. So this is someone who's been working for Ron Wyden for 30 years. 30 years she's been working for him. So that tells you something too, because I don't know if anybody works for Republicans for that long. On the same day, I also talked to somebody in Ro Khanna's office. I was very busy on Thursday. And I spent a half an hour talking about forwarding the Democratic messaging, which is something that we talk about so much because we don't have a unifying message. We don't really have a unifying leader. I said we need a Democratic press secretary. He loved that idea. And he also loved the idea because Ro Khanna sits on House Oversight. That would be a great idea for a bunch of us liberal influencers to testify before House Oversight and show them the kinds of texts that we got around Charlie Kirk and all of this. So maybe we can start dissipating the temperature on this national conversation. Because again, liberals had nothing to do with him being shot. All of this great stuff is happening, right? Boom, 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 boom. Friday, my iPhone broke. My iPhone broke, and a piece of thing broke off in the here. And friends, I can't afford a new iPhone, but I had to get a new iPhone. So it was like this week went woo, 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 woo.
Right.
So it's scary. This is what I call scary week of the month when you don't know if you're going to make it to rent. And I wanted to talk about also, and then I'll give you time to talk because it's your show. I want to talk about supporting the independent media because what we're going to be seeing going forward now that the Charlie Kirk thing has had its very lengthy news cycle, and I think there's more conversations to have around it. The way the mainstream media has handled this is a disgrace. The way they capitulate and the way they behave, and the way Trump has been allowed to get away with bullying them for 10 years. I'm done watching that happen. And I wrote a tweet earlier, like a lengthy one, like I tagged John Carl and I tagged Yamiche and I don't know if I tagged him, but I think I tagged Peter Ducey. Like, we're done. I'm done watching him do that to you. I'm done because you set the standard for how people are supposed to behave when they react to him. You're watching the press. If the press seems scared, then other people will seem scared. You shouldn't be scared of him. Right. Ask him the question. He doesn't answer the question, the next person answers the question. He attacks someone, the next person stands with him and say, well, I would like the answer to that question. And you keep pushing. Then if he doesn't answer the question, and he walks away, then you fucking let him walk away like the baby he is. You stand together as one. One falls, you all fall. One is bullied, you're all bullied. One gets singled out, you're all singled out. You stand together as one. Because what do we know about bullies, Hal? They are cowards at heart.
Right.
And when they are challenged, they fold like paper. Unfortunately, this media started giving him ground in 2015. They ceded inches, and now he's taking our democracy. So collectively, our responsibility, mine, yours, everyone on Political Voices, everyone who does what we do, we need to be screaming about truth. And we also need to be protecting our partners in the mainstream media and figure out a way that we combine our efforts to make sure the truth starts prevailing the loudest now. Because they what I have learned repeatedly in talking to you, in talking to our friend John Fugelsang, and just listening and paying attention, MAGA never cares about the truth. They care about this cult of identity and that this matters to them. And I learned this also talking to Dr. Jeff Grammer on Tuesday. The red hat signifying I belong, we are together. It's about feelings, not facts, and it always has been with them. It's always about feelings of belonging, those being mirrored back by Trump rather than politics. And one thing that I heard in all of this, it was such a great quote, is that MAGA will only stop believing the lie when it hurts them more than it serves them, which I thought was a really interesting way to frame it.
I mean,
because that's true, right? So in all of that I just said, what I'm asking for in this week, because next week we all have to pay rent. We all are facing the unknown at the beginning of a week and whatever. $5, $10 to your favorite independent media person, me, Devlin, the Political Voices Network, Hal, Fugel, like all of us. We are not being paid by some humongous think tank.
Right.
I'm not getting paid $8,000 a month.
No.
I don't get what I don't. It is scraping the pennies from Substack, from the meager amount that I'm getting paid for what I do is not enough. And we should be paid so much more, like teachers and nurses. Maybe not that much, but we don't have that. Okay. What we have is a great audience of wonderfully invested people who care so much about our First Amendment and our democracy. The only way we move the needle at all is if we somehow figure out how to unify. But we can't do that unless we are all able to keep doing this. They don't want us to continue to tell the truth. We have to. So it's, again, I know I constantly ask for money. It's important. Someone in the chat said that. You know, don't give it to me. Give it to Political Voices Network. I'll figure out a way. I always do. But what I'm saying is, you know, Starbucks doesn't need your $7 for a pumpkin spice latte today. Kick it down to someone who does. Kick it down to someone in the independent media who's never lied to you, who's never grifted from you, who's never switched sides like Lindy Lee, who's never, who doesn't take Russian blood money to shill propaganda, who doesn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars a week because she's suppressed on Twitter or whatever. Right now, you can read my Substack for free, but if you want to respond, you have to buy a subscription at the lowest level. And I do that to protect myself. It gives me one place on the internet where MAGA can't troll me.
Well, you know, it's interesting because on my end of things, I could set my chat rooms on all these sites to either subscriber or member only kind of things, and I never have and I won't, because the purpose is for the conversation we're having to reach as many people as possible. And the people who support this do that so that happens, not so that they can pay for a secret paywall that they can, I'll tell you all the good stuff behind the scenes, which is just like,
I don't like that.
That's not politics. That's not how you do a social movement. It's not how you help the maximum amount of people. That's just a cult of personality. So I would argue that the more outflow you get from somebody on our side that isn't supported. Yes, Patreons assemble. Thank you guys so much, especially because they're like the literally the foundation of everything that I'm able to do on the channel and all that I'm able to build on it. But that having the more people are like, I'm just putting everything out there. I don't have a behind the scenes thing. I don't have a members only chat, or I don't, as much as most people when they have a Patreon or something, have a secret, inside scoop something or other. I don't do that because that's not the point. The point is that we're all having this conversation, as freely and fully as we possibly can out in the open. And the people who do pay for it are supporting the people who can't. Most of all, what I believe the people who support channels like ours do is that they support the ability for people that don't have the resources. They might have the internet, but they don't have the money to super chat or do a Patreon thing or any of that kind of stuff, that wouldn't get to see it otherwise. That's what they're supporting, not secret conversation behind the scenes, TYT. Sure. So, anyways, let's move on to the conversations of the day, though.
Yes, there is one last thing I'd like to. It is free to share our links with your friends on your socials. Hey, I heard Tara Dublin say this thing on the Hal Sparks show. Here's the link. And then they can decide for themselves what they want to do after that. You can share my Substack link. You can share the link to my book at taradublinrocks.com. I don't want to get something for nothing. I don't want you to just, I'm not asking for a handout. I give you something in return for your investment of $5 or whatever. So, but what, sharing is caring, and the freedom and the fact that you can share a link for free is also a humongous part of it. And especially when, someone is suppressed on one social media platform, but is doing okay on others. So anyway, to the news of the day, we have gone through all of this. Happy rapture to those who celebrate.
Did it happen again without me?
Then I think it's happening supposedly today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. But that's really clashing with Rosh Hashanah, coincidentally. So maybe they could put a pin in that until Thursday.
Yeah. Well, I think the big story of the day is, and I have not seen them officially announce this quite yet, is that Trump is doing this autism. They figured out autism, and it's vaccines. Apparently, I don't know if you know this, but vaccines actually it's not. Oh wait, yeah, sorry, it's not. That was all wrong. Scuttle that.
It's not Tylenol.
It's acetaminophen during pregnancy and vitamin deficiency, and a combination of those two things. Right. So and again, you got to love a war of statistics, but at the very least, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that it ain't vaccines. That with all the RFK Jr. shit and all the stuff that we've been through, the announcement that they are allegedly going to make today is that it has nothing at all to do with vaccines. After the RFK Jr. promised everyone that he was going to go in there and shed light on it, and he was going to bring in all these vaccine skeptics, and he filled the NIH boards and the CDC boards with vaccine skeptics and all this kind of shit, not because they don't work or because they cause or it's just big pharma making money. It's not because of that, but because they cause autism. That autism is on the rise because of the number of vaccines, because the rise in vaccines and the rise of autism correlates but does not have an attached causality, because time moves forward and we're recognizing what we call autism these days. We had a myriad of different names for, in terms of retarded or mentally challenged or any myriad of things, from dyslexic to deaf. Kids just were written off, and so we didn't have a title for it. Then the same way that when he was a kid, he's like, there weren't all these chronic disease people when I was a kid because they fucking died. But now they're going to apparently attach it to the use of acetaminophen during pregnancies. And you know what's great about this? You know what's really great about this? Is that they will be able to say this. A large portion of women will switch, to ibuprofen from acetaminophen during the pregnancy cycle. It won't affect shit, but it'll be 5 to 10 years before the jury's back in. And the numbers, and they will categorically assume that the numbers are fading when they aren't. And so they won't have to answer to it. You can literally just say this and move on and go, yep, we fixed it. Just don't take acetaminophen during your pregnancy and we're done. And
it's dumb. It's just, and then tomorrow it's what? Don't eat gummy bears during pregnancy because the sugar high will make them what? Just so stupid.
No,
This is
this is going to
another
be it. I'm telling
distraction.
you. Here's the
This
thing,
is
though.
another distraction.
No, but this is going to be the end of it because it ain't vaccines, so they can't keep going back. This is the problem when you
You have to
again. I
hold
was talking
them
about
to
this with
this,
Cliff.
right?
Was like yes, when you paint the solution as being very cut and dry and very easy to solve, and that the problem's an extraordinary elephant in the room that nobody is talking about. You know, and a great example of that is 35. I heard this requoted again. I think it was like Gavin McInnes or one of these dudes who, like the Proud Boys guys, saying it isn't that we have all a bunch of illegals. It's that we have 35 million in the country. And like we fucking don't. We've got 10.3 at last count, and that's a conservative number on the high side. It is so fucking lazy. And the problem that Trump has is that in promising that there are 35 million lunatic, murderer, rapist, asylum escaping Hannibal Lecters running around, is that they're really fucking hard to find. And you end up rounding up people who are just in the middle of roofing, and that's not going to satisfy the maggots that were told that there are 35 million lunatics running around that can barely, that are, that run around with butcher knives with their pants on backwards, down the streets because they were poured into the country by the Venezuelan government. That's a big, again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that's fucking huge. That's like 35, like the 25 million psychopaths were added to the country, and then all of them managed. Maybe it's America's that amazing, is that they all came up here and got roofing jobs all of a sudden. Maybe they were only maybe they were allergic to something in Guatemala. Maybe it was the local shrubbery made them insane, and up here it doesn't grow. So they it is so fucking dense that they can't escape it.
No, and so if I'm a member of the press and I'm standing in front of him yelling this bullshit, he's yelling this bullshit. The responsibility of the press is to say, people have been taking Tylenol for decades and we've never heard this before. And you've been blaming vaccines for all of this time. And now you're turning this into something else. How can we trust this when you were blaming vaccines? How can we trust this when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not a doctor? And basically no one at the CDC is a doctor right now. Why should anyone listen to anything that comes from this administration when this administration lies to us and continues to make us less safe and less healthy every second they remain in office? That's the question that the press should ask. That is what should be said on camera. They should not let him go through this whole big thing that is a lie. And unfortunately, this lie, the vaccine community, I'm be curious to see the anti-vax community, how they react to this, because if they've been fed this anti-vax lie for so long, are they supposed to be anti-acetaminophen now? Like what are they going to do with this new information?
Wait for it. The big change is that we've been getting all of our acetaminophen made in China, and now we've got to make it here. Right. And so I don't know why we're making it at all. Why don't you just come up with a different thing? Okay, so there are two things that are supposed to come out about this. This is what part of the announcement that they're going to make is that there's a low levels of folate in the during pregnancy, and they recommend folinic acid for kids with kids
folic
with
acid is what. Yeah,
autism.
Women are encouraged to take folic acid during pregnancy.
Right, because of to prevent spina bifida and all kinds of other stuff.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the problem is more than likely spina bifida and other things are going up because the RFK Jr. hippie chick crowd are doing taking charcoal tablets and shit like that and just trying all these weird YouTube remedies during their pregnancy, and they're denying what actually fucking works. And again, this goes back to one of the reasons we had a rise in skin cancer in this country and why it leveled out after a little while was a shift from dairy to dairy replacement that happened hugely during the 90s and early 2000s. And there's nothing wrong with going from dairy to oat milk or dairy to silk or all that, but there was a long storied history of augmenting milk, adding vitamin D and vitamin A to milk as a source, because a long time ago scientists realized everybody's short of it, especially if you live in the northern or northeastern part of the countries during certain parts of the year, or you live in fucking Seattle. You're not going to have enough vitamin D because your body makes it, so you got to supplement it. The easiest way to do that is in milk. It was a standard thing. You couldn't inject eggs at the time. You couldn't create eggs with a lot of vitamin D in them, which you now can. You couldn't add it to other stuff. The easiest thing to add it to was milk. So they did. And then when people switched from one to the other, they started drinking silk. It didn't have vitamin D or vitamin A added to it because people were, I don't know, because all sorts of, it didn't sound organic or some shit. And ultimately, this is when you run into people who are like, oh my God, this has got tocopherol in it. And you're like, asshole, that's vitamin E. And you're like, oh, okay, sorry. That there was so much of that in the fucking 90s. It was just dumb. But then they eventually started adding it. And if you'll notice, all of like silk and all these other oat milks and stuff are now, they've got vitamin D and vitamin A added to them. In some cases, more stuff, right? So, vitamin D doesn't exist in Seattle. It explains so much. Believe me. If there was more vitamin D, you wouldn't have had grunge. I'm just telling you. Grunge is what happens in a human body that can play guitar really well, but doesn't have enough vitamin D.
In the dark. In the dark,
right.
Which is what happens in Portland, too, by the way.
Right.
I mean,
that's right.
We had an amazing music and art scene here, because most of the great things that are created have to be created indoors.
And then you got jacked up weed, and everybody got paranoid because they didn't change their dose, and they smoked the same amount of weed they did from before, but now they got higher THC, and they can't fucking handle it, so they're all little mini Joe Rogans running around who can't fucking handle their THC. And they're into the lesson. Fucking amateurs.
Fucking amateurs.
All right,
what about the other story that's happening at the same time as this one, though? I know what they're going to put forward. What they're going to put forward is a bunch of lying bullshit things so that more people in red states die. People in blue states are not going to believe this bullshit about the acetaminophen. They're not. We're not. We're not going to, because we're smart, we're educated.
Well, wait, hold on a second, though. I'm gonna, for the record, though, there is going to be an announcement from I guess the American Society of Pediatrics, and they're at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services officials. It will be the official language of recommendations, just like when we switched the MDA to the RDA. Remember, we used to have minimum daily allowance, but that sounds like too little, so they like RDA now. We've got 100% of the recommended daily allowance, which sounds like more, but it isn't. It's the same as the minimum daily allowance, but that minimum sounds depressing. So they're going to make this officially the current science. This is going to be announced as the current science.
That's bullshit. And you know what? Someone in the chat saw this. I saw this go by real quick. That they don't want women to take any sort of pain relief during pregnancy because they want women to be in pain. They want women to suffer, and it's the cruelty. That's the point. There's nothing. I mean, they've been using acetaminophen forever to treat mild pain. There's never, I mean, this is horrific. This is going to cause a panic in the United States for no reason except to instill fear.
Well, and also make women blame themselves for like we're at thalidomide again, all over again.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about, the flipper babies. This is, when it comes to stuff like this, every drug comes with a warning label, right? That's something that the FDA made sure happened. Like, this could happen. There are risks. That's all you need to do. You don't have to come out and try to scare the entire population of the United States and say, acetaminophen causes autism. No, it fucking does not. We don't know what causes it, okay? We don't. We may never. It's just someone's biological makeup. It's just something that happens. The DNA and the genetics and whatever, the soup that creates us all. We're all biological experiments, okay?
Yeah, except
That's
okay, hold
just
on one
what
second.
happens.
Wait, no,
You
I
can't.
look. There may be an environmental factor in some of these cases, in which case you would want to limit those kind of things. They're taking advantage of that fact, but the fact that they're misusing that information or
Yeah.
diluting it doesn't mean that that's not a reality. And if there was something caused it,
No.
one of the reasons you don't want them chasing down vaccines is because you would be ignoring the real cause of it. And believe me, that's what
Right.
the conversation in MAGA world is going to be. When they come out and say, don't take Tylenol during your pregnancy unless you have a fever, which is what they're going to recommend, because it's an antifebrile as opposed to a pain reliever in that regard. You can take
Right.
ibuprofen as a pain reliever. And then
Mhm.
women will take that up, and then the numbers might not change and whatever. The point is,
Right.
they're going to make this case or whatever and they're going to be in more deep shit with MAGA than if they'd have come out and said, we knew it was vaccines and we've said it, but they can't. You know why? Because even if they wanted to say it was vaccines, even if there's a bunch of dipshits on his board that says this, the problem they have right now is sort of to your point, is that you don't have a bunch of Democrats dying of fucking measles. You don't have a lot of blue state kids dying of these diseases. You got red state kids who are going to die. And they're all looking at this. All the senators, all the House members, who, no matter how much they beat the fucking drum about vaccine bullshit and government control and all that kind of nonsense, what they looked at is that the deaths in COVID were not evenly spaced. In the very beginning, it was a mass kill-off of people who were impoverished or in highly dense areas. But after a while, when a vaccine became available, or people were able to limit their symptoms by getting vaccinated and not going into the hospital for long periods of time and not dying and not getting worse, red states is where the death rate went through the roof, because it wasn't the disease that killed them, it was the ignorance about the vaccine. And so what these Republicans are looking at is, if anything, whether acetaminophen can be tied to it or not is immaterial to the general maggotry who have bought into this anti-vaccine thing that is killing off,
Right.
or has the potential to kill off, a generation of Republican voters.
Yeah. And it makes no sense.
That's why I think they want to come out and say it's anything. I would argue anything but vaccines. They want to come out and because even if they went, it's this vaccine, one in particular one. We found the Pertussis vaccine
Right.
had mercury in it for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. They went that storyline, which it doesn't and whatever.
Right.
But they wanted to go that way. The problem is the rest of the country would go, oh, is there an alternate to that vaccine? Because I still want my kid vaccinated against pertussis. And they'd go, yes, there's a secondary one, or the mRNAs are better. Just like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is the one that had heart palpitations. And that was a traditional vaccine. That used dead versions of the
Right.
virus, old-fashioned. None of the mRNA vaccines had that problem. But they thought it's all this new technology that's causing all the heart problems. It wasn't at all. And as a matter of fact, it was actually COVID that was causing the heart problems. It's just that your body reacts, and especially young males in a certain window of testosterone, your heart development is such that you will react to what's in the dead vaccine, or the dead virus that's in the vaccine, or the live virus still makes triggers the inflammation. That's what they realized. So it was effectively just like getting COVID for them in that regard. In the same way that some people will get feverish after they get a vaccine. They'll get symptoms
Right.
of it without the actual disease. So that's a standard vaccination problem. Nobody made that distinction. Like, listen to maggots talk about vaccines, and they will all jump on mRNA is this fantastical, super scientific, genetically modifying shit. It's got RNA in it. Oh my dear God. And that's what's causing heart attacks in young people. Like, listen to them talk about it. When, in fact,
crazy.
it was not the mRNA vaccines that were causing the tachycardia symptoms and the pericardial swelling or in young men. It was specifically the Johnson & Johnson old school vax. Okay, so if you and I heard that one of the vaccines that had been given was maybe linked to autism and they didn't know about it and then they fixed it and whatever, there'd be lawsuits against the company that made it if they knew and that kind of stuff. But everybody would
Right.
still go, my kid needs a whooping cough vaccine, so I'll use
Right.
the other one that didn't cause it, that isn't tracked to this. That's not
Right.
going to be the maggot response. Maggots are going to go, I knew it, they're trying to kill us all, fuck it. And they're going to ignore,
Yeah.
they're going to blame, they're going to say, I think they're all that way. They will lump them
Of
all
course.
together in the same way they lump together the mRNA vaccines and the Johnson & Johnson stuff because it's just vaccine bad. Like they're low.
Yeah.
Trump loves the poorly educated, and he is going to love them into an early grave.
Which they don't get no matter what you say to them, which is again one of what, like I said earlier, they're gonna stay there until the lie no longer provides the comfort that it used to, because it's hurt them in some way. When these lies have a body count, his lies have a body count, okay? And no, and it's intentional and it's dangerous, and it's we're talking about the same people who are letting him lie to them about the Epstein files because it feels safe and it feels comfortable.
Right.
And to have to go outside anything that, because apparently the worst thing that you can be if you're a MAGA is wrong on the internet. And if you're wrong on the internet, then, people see you being wrong, then you have to walk it back. Then you have to say you were wrong. And oh my God, so they're wrong about that. They're wrong about the vaccines. Now they say it's this. What else have they been wrong about? What else have they been lying to you about? And it's these people who have no natural curiosity are just taking this and eating it because dear leader says so. The leader is good, the leader is right, with no question, no challenge. But and it's all right in front of them, and yet there's no natural curiosity. So they don't question. They don't say, well, you said this, but now you're saying this. You said the rapture was coming 4 years ago and it never came. Are you sure it's coming the day after tomorrow? Like, there's no natural curiosity. It's all about that cult of identity politics. And so if these are the same people that let Donald Trump continue to move the goalposts of lies with the Epstein files, it doesn't surprise me that they will allow this to also become. And then if we ask them, well, you said this about vaccines, they're like, well, now we know it was actually this. So again, like, we have to be the ones that prevail with the truth as much as possible and be louder than this. And, say to people, that the fuck your feelings, do your own research crowd is really upset and they never do their own research. So that's why we have to stay where the truth lives.
Well, and also, here's the other thing, too. There is nothing wrong with actively searching for a cause for autism and a cure for autism. Zero. There is nothing wrong with that. And the problem is that because, I guess people on our side don't feel comfortable having that conversation, or because it's been seized by lunatics, we cede that ground to the worst among us, leaving people to have their lives upended and destroyed, to the point where, by the way, that on the right, the prevailing story right now is that transgender people are just autistic. That's just that all of them can be described as autistic, period. It is a factor, a secondary factor of autism because, because some autistic children, through seeing stuff, become fixated on just about anything. And in some cases, they get fixated via Tumblr and the internet, believing that they are transgender when they are not. And that would arguably be the crowd of detransitioners we're seeing right now that are not trans, but may have believed they were, because nobody wanted to have the conversation about the depth of reality in this area because we didn't want to offend someone, or we didn't want to disenfranchise someone, or we felt threatened by the idea on our own side to not have this fucking conversation. And so what did we do? By not having the difficult parts of this conversation, we left these people in the hands of Donald Trump.
Right.
We ceded the entire conversation. They did. That's what happened. That's what happens when we're not, the same thing with immigrants. If we don't want to have, this is why the Democrats and the, what would be the bipartisan bill, border bill that Biden was pushing forward, arguably, the only reason he didn't introduce that in the first year of his presidency was because of activist pushback on our side of the aisle. Was this belief that any talk about the border plays into the racism of the people who are seizing the issue. And because they might feed on it, we can't deal with the reality part of it because it will give them fuel and further that maybe they were right about something like that. So the fear that it might make these people feel right in what they're doing and drive them towards further awful, we didn't deal with gravity. reality, just the normalcy of stuff, just regular order government shit. And if we had actually dealt with it, they wouldn't have been able to even make up this 35 million number and start rounding up people and end up yanking kids out of their parents' hands and deporting a fucking 4-year-old. And that's where I'm like, can we blame them for this? What they're saying? Absolutely. Is Trump responsible for these policies? Absolutely. But where we can change and where we can make sure it doesn't happen again is by not fearing directly talking about these issues so that they can't just seize the gap. Because there's this idea they just spackle the empty spaces with racism and bigotry and bullshit and QAnon and fucking vaccine and flat earth shit. Because we're saying we're not even going to talk about that window at all. Because even talking about it is offensive to the conversation, when I would say it is not. I think we have a responsibility because we care to talk deeply about these issues.
That, and when you make these choices to get vaccinated, right? You make choices. You've decided, and your reasons for getting vaccinated can be multiple. I have a chronic health condition. I do this, or I care about not getting other people in my community sick. That should be enough, because that's supposed to be our social contract.
Okay, hold on. Wait, I'm going to pause you there real quick. I'm going to pause you there real quick, because that's not the concern point. That's where they fight kind of the verbal part of this. But we all vaccinate our children before they go to school, before they go to public school, or quite frankly, even private school, which is the part that everybody lies about. Fucking Tucker Carlson's of the world and all this shit.
Everybody vaccinates their kids.
But there's no fucking way like a really expensive school is going to let unvaccinated kids into the thing. So it's all with the homeschool crowd. And then people who lie or fake their vaccine paperwork, which happens all the time as well. But it's not because that's a choice they're making, but it's a choice you make for your children. And therefore, there has been this, where I always talk about these gaps in between MAGA and regular Republicans, and it is our responsibility to shove a crowbar in there and wiggle it back and forth. One of the areas that they find a gap in this is that it isn't just about my body, my choice. The state is telling me my kid needs these vaccines to go to public school. And public school is required, and therefore the state is making me inject something into my kids. And that is enough of a paranoid starting line that all you have to do is have Alex Jones or somebody fire a shot in the air and everybody's off. It's a race to the dipshittiest, dumbest, most extraordinarily crazy plan. And again, this boils into, if they can get a chip into you with a vaccine, Trump sat for a 4-hour monoclonal antibody treatment with bags of liquids going into his fucking body. If
you have one of these, you shouldn't be worried about a microchip in a vaccine, okay? Come on.
Well, no, but you can throw that out a window. You can have a burner. You can do it. Again, it is still different.
It's about not enabling these stupid conspiracies. It's about calling those out because they're dangerous. Because you and I, thinking, feeling humans, don't want anyone to die because of Donald Trump. Not anyone who voted for him, not anyone who didn't. And we definitely did not sign up for a MAGA mass suicide. So I'm going to continue. And I'm grateful. I live in a blue state. We are part of the West Coast Health Alliance here in Oregon. And I have my COVID and flu shots are scheduled for October 1st. So I that is my choice, my decision. I care about my community's health. I care about my personal health. And so I take those steps to make sure that I'm not going to get anyone else sick if I'm a little under the weather. COVID, also getting the COVID shot. I got COVID after I came back from the DNC. If I had not been vaccinated and boosted regularly, that COVID could have really done some damage to me. Instead, I just was really tired for about a week, And so there are advantages. And again, there are choices that we make because we know that they're the right thing to do just as a human being. And then there are choices that we make where we're like, okay, maybe this isn't the greatest, but I understand that this is important to do. So we do it. So, be nice to people, be courteous and whatever else. I also think that the timing of this announcement about the acetaminophen and the autism to scare people is coming exactly at the same time that we just found out Trump accidentally posted on Truth Social a text that he meant to send to Pam Bondi. Did you see
Oh,
that?
yeah. Well,
Where he
his
was like,
little note to her. Yeah, right.
about going after our enemies. Why haven't we gotten our enemies yet? Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton was like, this would be like if Richard Nixon tweeted about Watergate instead of hiding it. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's multiple things that are more important than this story, uh, because this story is bullshit and manufactured for fear. The Epstein Files letter story should be a big deal, and Donald
Mm-hmm.
Trump putting out this hit on his enemies thing. Those should be the biggest stories that we're talking about.
Well, I'll
Those
tell
are
you,
what we should be
yes, and I
pushing
would
the
argue
media to
that
talk
one
about.
of the yes, but also the I would argue the autism stuff is not about the reality of the science or even them trying to bury this. This is yet another situation where Trump is lighting a match and throwing it right at MAGA's feet, because the reality is, this is not what they were promised. This goes to a series of like this whole promises made, promises kept shit that he's throwing out there.
Which is Joe Biden, by the way.
Right. But look at all the things. Like, again, we're going to have these mass deportations, hundreds of thousands of people rounded up, buses. We're going to have planes flying out all the time. And there just aren't enough people to even pull that off. And then when he starts to round people up, he gets on the bad side of his buddies in big agribusiness and his buddies in hospitality, which is where most of the folks work. And the other area they work is in home construction. Single family dwellings, as a matter of fact, and that's what keeps the price of those things down. When you've got interest rates high, the cost of production of the house, you actually need more low income workers working on houses to make the price palatable, because if you have 2% interest rates on a home loan, then you can have like regular order Americans in unions building houses, because it evens the price out. The price isn't going to change. It's not going to go down, but it'll be the same. It'll just be less in interest and more in the actual house. But right now, since interest rates are so high, the cost of making the house has to be low. So you're going to bring in more under the table workers. Otherwise, you won't be able to afford it.
Right.
And Pulte, our house was made by a company called America West. And they do all these houses in the big expansion in Vegas. And they started out as Pulte, as one of Pulte, and then he was bought out in this area by that. Pulte is the actual, like, I want to say interior secretary, but he's not. He's like the housing and human, like the housing, the HUD
HUD
secretary,
guy, right?
Yeah. And he builds houses for a living. That's his whole thing. That's why Trump gave him the job, because this is his thing. It's like giving the head of BlackRock the fucking job. But the key is, right, ultimately, that guy's not going to help bring the cost of housing down. There's no impetus for him to do it. So, but you remove these workers, and suddenly the cost of making a house goes up, and the cost of buying a house has not gone down, because interest rates aren't going to go down. Even if you could afford it, unless you're BlackRock, you're not getting the 3% loan. You're getting 5% more than likely, and it's still more. So that's a promise sitting on. Okay, the immigrants can't be wiped away, because that would make food prices and housing prices go up and all that kind of shit. And his buddies in these businesses don't want it to happen. So he can't do these giant. They were promised huge busloads of people, and they're not. They're like, remember the planes that they kept showing that showed basically children that had come across alone, and like Catholic Charities was placing them with families, and they would fly the kids in the middle of the night so people wouldn't attack them, but they were children. And they think
awful.
And they had to do it at night so that these people wouldn't track these kids to the houses they were being placed in and torment them. Okay, they think there's going to be they think those planes were going every hour on the hour, 24 hours a day, or from midnight to 6 a.m. all night long. They think this. I understand this. Maggots believe this. They believe tens of that. They're flying them over the border. That's why.
A lot of bullshit.
Right. Yeah. But that also means that they believe it is just as easy to put those people back on the plane and fly them back. And that's what Donald Trump should be doing right now. That's what they think it was going to do. That's what he promised he was going to do. And he's not, because you can't.
No.
Because it was a fantasy to start with that they were coming this way. You can't send back people who weren't fucking here. And so that's another failure. And they're getting livid about this. This is why his numbers are going down. And here we come with this autism linked to acetaminophen, which even if it is true, is not what they were promised. They were promised to not have to vaccinate their kids. Now, do they give a shit about vaccines ultimately, and do they think they cause autism? I think there's a chunk of the fucking Jenny McCarthy's of the world that believe that and are stuck on that, and it's fine. Whatever. But the vast majority of them don't think vaccines cause autism. They just think the government's using one of these needles to put a chip in my kid. That's the crazier part. It doesn't matter what the fucking needle is. And so they don't want the vaccines, even if you go, guys, it's not vaccines, it's acetaminophen. They're going to go, yeah, that's not what I was worried about. It's the needle in my kid's arm that they're going to chip him with. And then now they sound like a fucking lunatic, even more so than blaming vaccine for something their kid doesn't even have. I'm telling you, the reason this is an important story and why he's got two stories right now. Epstein and not Epstein. And that's what he's trying to get everybody to focus on, anything that's not Epstein. The problem is...
Well, good luck with that.
They're all the same...
It's not going away.
They're all the same kind of lie. They're all the same lie. It's like I promised it would be easy and quick and cheap and I'd do it fast and everybody else was stupid and you're being lied to and I can fix it immediately and it'll be it won't cost us anything and you'll be so happy and we're also going to be rich at the same time, golden era. And then each time they tee up one of these fucking things, including this today.
Yep.
Even if they actually found the cause of autism, maggots are going to lose their fucking minds that it isn't vaccines. They didn't send... I think we should just...
Yeah, no, just sit back and let them watch them freak out.
Yes, you will. It's good. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I didn't consider that part of it. Just because I was focused on that's ludicrous and you're hurting the American people intentionally, and this is also a distraction from Epstein. So... but the fact that it's going to fracture MAGA even more than the Charlie Kirk story is great for us.
Yep.
That's great for us. Let's take advantage of that.
Did you hear Elon Musk's quote? Did you hear what Elon Musk said?
Which one? He was on a tear all weekend, so I don't know. Which one? He said
when he was at the Kirk Memorial. He was backstage at the Kirk Memorial. And he said... If we don't hang together, we will surely hang separately. Let us unite. Like, whoa!
What does that mean?
It's a quote. It's a quote from the the founding fathers about who wrote the Constitution. He's borrowing from that. But the idea is that you're a revolutionary that's bringing down the entire system. If we don't hang together, we'll hang separately. Meaning, they'll hang us at the Hague for what we're doing if we don't. Protect each other's flanks because he knows what he's engaged in is fucked up.
Of course. I mean, he helped Trump steal this election, and that's why we're in this situation. And they both told us so repeatedly. And it frustrates me that Democrats never fought that, not even verbally fought it. Right? They didn't, bad enough they never demanded a recount, but they never pushed back. And they were confessing the night before the inauguration. And there was never any pushback. But the other things that Elon was saying a lot of crazy shit at that. He was like, this messaging that they went too far. They have pushed us. They did this. They is Tyler Robinson. You want to use a weird if your pronoun is they, put it for Tyler Robinson. We did not do this.
Right.
And Elon Musk, using his social media platform to push their false agenda doesn't help us. That's a lot of pronouns. His own daughter, who is transgender and beautiful and brilliant and amazing, was talking about the dangerous, the way they use language and all of that. And she said the easiest thing for her was transitioning. It's harder now because of the way that people treat her, the way people talk about the transgender community, and her own father is guilty of leading that hateful conversation. And so, and I even, when Charlie was first shot before, literally on the 10th, it was like, it won't matter what we say about this. Elon will not allow that to be the prevailing conversation. This narrative, let's just wait and see who it was before we start blaming and having feelings about it. He didn't do that. He was like, liberals, and they're doing it, and they. He's doing the us versus they, right? Us versus them. That's not help. That doesn't help. That, and he doesn't he's so strung out on ketamine and his money. He has no concept of the day-to-day realities of regular people and what he does and how it impacts them, and doesn't care because he's so far removed from the reality that the rest of us live in. He's insulated from reality in so many
he already
different ways.
was, because he's a second generation rich kid and all that other
Right.
shit. But but on top of that, I would argue it's getting even worse as his brain turns to tapioca.
Well, both of them have that.
Yeah.
Right.
We're almost
So
at the
what
end
do
of the
you
hour,
think
and I want to remind everybody, by the way.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I want to remind everybody, the Tara Show, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Check it out on their Substack.
Big week on the Tara Show. We have Malcolm Nance with us tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And then Thursday, my Senator Ron Wyden will be rejoining us. And he will be updating us on the Senate Finance Committee's investigation into the Epstein files and other things. So, yes. I just want to know if you think Elon is worried about consequences for what he's done and who would provide those consequences. Because if he thinks they're going to hang, do you think the Hague is really coming for him? I'm like, I don't see any evidence.
No. He means that euphemistically, and he's a self-involved dickhead who they always puff these things up. But what I will say is that they do want to create this kind of idea that that Tyler Robinson is exemplary of a violent form of left-wing extremism that's that they have to fear, and therefore that justifies any action they take. Now, there was people on our side of the aisle that were pushing the whole words or violence idea for a good long while, because dealing with what was effectively hate speech and the like, and it got a huge pushback in a bunch of areas, because the only response to an act of violence towards you is an act of physical self-defense. And so when language like that seeks to justify physical responses to words, and that's something we always have to push back against, because whichever way it ratchets up, the people that that get hurt are always the people sort of on the front lines of life. This is where assholes go shoot up the Cincinnati FBI office because they don't like what the FBI is doing to show the FBI they mean business, when it was the Florida FBI that got a warrant illegally through, to go into Mar-a-Lago. And who gets killed? The fucking receptionist, the person who's standing in the front, right? That's what happens when people go, violence is justified in response to words. That's arguably where, Tyler Robinson's beliefs came from in this regard, that you can respond to hate with violence. And and the problem with allowing that kind of conversation to go on, or justifying it, is that it allows what's effectively on the right preemptive strikes. And that's where their thinking is at right now. That's why they're saying 500 liberal, talkers need to be rounded up, or whatever. You need to take out 500 liberal talkers because of Charlie Kirk, because of losing. Like it's a game of fucking Risk. Right, I know that. But I'm saying that's why words aren't violence, and why there is a difference, and why you have to make that distinction, and why you don't give them that ground, because they will be all too happy to use it. And
correct. And the First Amendment protects us all equally. It protects what Charlie Kirk says. It protects what we say. And remember, everybody, you're not helpless. You're not hopeless. You have all of us here. But we are also back in the streets on October 18th for the next No Kings march. And it is happening in all 50 states with a focus on protecting our First Amendment rights, along with everything else. I'm emceeing the Portland March. They asked me to MC after doing 2 speeches at the last 2. Thank you. We're not hiding. We're not being silenced, and no one is taking away our constitutional rights on our watch. We are not going to let them take away our First Amendment rights. We're going to keep fighting for those, because that is what makes us Americans. And you never have to agree with anybody. You are not required to agree with one other person if you don't want to. But you have to allow them to say the things that you don't agree with, so that you can say the things that are important to you. First Amendment is there. As long as you're not inciting violence and you're not calling for anyone to be hurt, your First Amendment right is it's your currency, right? As a human being in this country, we are all afforded that equality. And the second you take it away from one person, you're taking it away from all of us. And that's why we have to fight for our First Amendment rights along with our other constitutional rights. Get in the streets. You have to show this administration and the rest of the country that you mean business when you say we are not going to accept what this illegitimate regime is doing, whether it's ignoring the Epstein files, lying to the American people, keeping us unsafe, making us less secure globally, or whatever it is. You have a reason for being here to watch us today. That is the reason you're in the streets on October 18th.
Right.
That is the reason why you share this show and you come back over and over again. Because like a wise woman once said, we are stronger together.
And I will, and I'm going to end this in a way that will probably infuriate you and everybody else, is that I will,
Great.
I will say that while I didn't like, I don't like Turning Points USA. I fight back against everything that they say. I think that one of the ways that it really, they're like I said, if there's a gap, you shove a crowbar in there and you wiggle it back and forth because you don't allow a unified front that doesn't exist. When Charlie Kirk's wife, whose husband was shot and killed less than a week and a half ago, at this thing said she forgives the shooter. She gets credit for that, especially after when Donald Trump comes out and says the exact opposite, effectively
I wouldn't do that
in her face.
And so who does MAGA follow now? If they truly cared about Charlie Kirk, they would follow her and demand Epstein files be released because he stood up there and said, I don't agree with Charlie.
That's right.
Well, then fuck you. Right. Fuck you. The fully unredacted Epstein files should be released and you deserve, Donald Trump deserves every misery that will be visited upon him going forward. Every misery. He deserves it. He has brought it all upon himself, the ultimate predator asking for it. So remember that as we go forth in this week, we are here for
any
you.
Victim,
See you.
Any victim of a crime who could find their way to that, I appreciate. And there's all the more reason to take them at face value on that. If they're going to fail or be fraudulent about it or lie or pull it back later on, that's on them. But when the idea is initially put forward, it is the higher path. It should be respected. And when you do, you make it more of a responsibility for them to live up to it than if you go bullshit from day one, because they'll go, why am I forgiving these people? And, and they'll get plenty. And that's why Trump felt comfortable saying what he said, which is antithetical to at least, if not what Charlie Kirk actually taught, at least what he said he was teaching. And at a certain point, that's got to mean something when it comes to legacy, especially if you passed away. And his family and everybody around him has to recognize that, because if you want to make a saint out of him, if you want to make him as a character rise above his mortal coil, what it requires is that higher standard. And if Donald Trump is going to chip away at the base of it,
with him.
Right. If Donald Trump is going to piss all over his legacy to your face, and undermine that belief system, you have a choice to make. You have a fork in the road. Do you follow the teachings of Jesus that, however flawed Charlie Kirk said he believed and said he was trying to follow? Or do you follow Donald Trump, the pussy-grabbing, adjudicated rapist who was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for 25 fucking years? The choice is yours, MAGA.
I think that's a valid question. Correct. Are you going to honor Charlie Kirk's final wish, or are you going to be a fucking hypocrite?
That's right.
That's my new tactic now. Everybody's like, oh, liberals, we're coming for you. I'm like, are you going to honor Charlie's final wish?
Yeah.
And demand a full release of the Epstein files?
Right.
Because you're not a fucking hypocrite, right? So let's just watch them honor Charlie's legacy now. You've had your big dog and pony show. You put on the red meat thing for the audience, like you threw them their red meat, and everybody stood up. That guy who was carrying the giant wooden cross across the place. I mean, very performative. You did all your cult praying and your hands up and your eyes closed. You did all of that. What are you going to live now?
Right.
It's a new day today. Erica Kirk has 2 children to raise. by herself. What are you doing? Are you following her path? Or are you following Trump's? That's a question to ask anyone who trolls you. That's a great question for the media to ask elected MAGA Republicans.
One of the things you might like when you, and appreciate it. And don't forget to follow Tara on all of her socials and whatnot. Tara Dublin Rocks, and of course, pick up her book. But one of the things is that if somebody puts up a symbol that they say they live up to, that's supposed to be a symbol of goodness and fairness and kindness and all these things, especially if it's one of of Jesus, and what it genuinely stands for in that religion, then hold them to it. It is their standard. They have clung to it, so therefore they have to live up to it. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Put up or shut up. Put up or shut up. Show me you're not a giant hypocrite. You have been using Charlie Kirk's name to boost your Nancy Mace has been like, oh my God, she made this all about her a million times over. All right, Nancy, let's see you advocate for the full release of the Epstein files, since you stood with the survivors and you made that whole thing about you, and then you immediately went and stood with Trump. So now you get to pick a lane. Do you want to be girlfriends with Erica, or do you want Daddy Trump to love you? Because one path is going to be better for you than the other. We'll see where they turn out. We'll see where we are in a week, Hal.
That's right. Anyways, have a great week,
everybody,
and I'll talk to you later.
To each other.
Bye,
guys.
Be
Thank
good.
you. Love you. Be good.
Bye. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. The Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. And by the way, chat room, hi. Hello to you guys. Who blocked Stephanie's show? Blocked where? I was on this morning. They were on Free Speech TV, I think, right? Does anybody know where and when in this thing? Maybe it's just was it on YouTube or something? Sometimes, she still uses tag music she doesn't have the rights to, so I don't know. Don't worry. Tomorrow night, I'm at the Ultimate Jam Night, so I will have a show this afternoon, but not one tomorrow. And then, of course, on Friday, I have Flappers, and so I will have a morning show that day, maybe not an afternoon show, depends on that. And then, but the rest of the week should be as normal, in theory. My birthday is Thursday, so I might not have my show on at the regular time. I'd have it earlier in the day, just whenever I feel like it, because it's my birthday. And my girl's taking me out to dinner. So, So much love, and I will see you guys. I will this afternoon at 3:00. And also, I was waiting to see if Trump, was having this ridiculous acetaminophen hearing. This little I saw the Caroline Leavitt was actually doing a regular order press briefing, but it didn't turn out to be. Let's see. This is the Trump person. No. Yeah. It's there's a free speech gaggle outside of the Congress right now. But yeah, I don't see that yet. When it comes up, I might pop in just to take it live. We shall see what we shall see. It's at 4 p.m. allegedly. Okay, so their time. So in another hour or two, in another 2 hours. Okay. So maybe I will jump on early for that one. Yes, sounds good. Because I feel like that one will take a while to get through. Lord knows. So, yeah, there we go. I will see you guys this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Hit the like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. Patreon.com/HalSparks and all those other things. Boy, oh boy. It's going to be quite the week. Just in time for my birthday. Hit the like, share the show, etc. Okay, I'll see you guys later.
The screen glows bright with a crooked smile.
Did my audio go off? What happened? Check. I guess so. side.
All venom, no style. Promises made, they rot in the air. A handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. Puppets dance, the strings are tight. Shadows whisper in the dead of night. This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit. Paper thin truths that crumble like ash. Golden thrones built on stolen cash. We raise our fists, we break the mold. Your house of cards is getting old. Static hums, the wires ignite. Truth's a bomb, we're ready to fight. This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit.
Bullshit! Am I getting through to you?
Man's got to know limitations. Oh, nice Mormon.
Knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes. Those men wanted to have sex with me.
You know something about